Alright, hey guys, welcome to Congress Lecture 4, okay? Today we talk about influences on the members of Congress. And so the big idea here is that you guys are just thinking about what influences how members of Congress vote, which I feel like you guys should have a pretty good idea because we've covered a lot, like the interest groups, their constituent convictions, right, their party membership, that kind of thing. So we're just going a little bit deeper into it, alright? So again, think about it. And I want you to think, like, how or why each of these variables will influence a member of Congress, all right? And how they vote. So they're constituents, right? The idea is, probably first and foremost, constituents impact how members vote, right? I mean, all politics is local. If they want to get reelected, or if they're themselves a member of that constituency, right? They come from that part of the country, that they have the same attitudes, values, beliefs, policy goals, etc., of their constituents, all right? And if you look at this, we have delegate role, all right? If a member votes according to their constituents' convictions, they're said to act in a delegate role and engage in representational voting, all right? Now, you got to measure constituent convictions. There's times where they'll really hear about constituent convictions because they're calling in, they're sending emails, their constituency is very fired up, or, sometimes their constituents aren't really aware of the matter, right? So it depends upon the issue if their constituents influence them, right? Okay, now, the member's own ideological beliefs, right? If somebody votes according to these, they're acting in a trustee role and engaged in attitudinal voting. This was one of the APFRQs last year, right? Just this, like, why would you vote according to your constituent convictions and why would you vote according to your own convictions, right? I mean, ultimately, a member's going to have to choose. And again, this is like cross-pressure that we talked about in Unit 2. Like, if you have this kind of fictional member of Congress, what's going to determine how they vote, right? Their constituents, their own beliefs, right? Okay. Now, other members of Congress, look at all these things. Their party, committee leaders, right? There are other members from their state that are back in D.C. Think about California. They've got 53 members in the House and 2 senators, right? Those people working for California's issues. Other members with similar ideologies, right? Now here's the idea. Members of Congress will engage in something called reciprocity or log rolling, right? I want you to think of those two things pretty much similar, right? They exchange votes. Lots of times there'll be something that a member from South Dakota will say to a member from, Oregon, like, look, I know this legislation is important to you right now, and I'll help you and I'll vote on it, and maybe in the future you can help me with a vote, right? I mean, they're talking about banking these kind of favors. All right, so exchange of votes, exchange of favors, that kind of thing. That can influence a relationship, right? How you vote. All right, now your staffers. The people that they hire to work for them, have an incredible amount of influence over members of Congress. I mean, you got to think about this, that a member of Congress ideally hires a bunch of, smart, educated, hardworking individuals from their community, or at least they've been trained in politics, they've been trained in policy areas, right? And these people are going to make arguments to their member of Congress about how they should vote on certain issues, right? They're going to be the ones that help prepare these guys with information to go engage in discussions with other members of Congress, to go pursue certain policy actions. So they're going to have incredible amounts, right, of information, right? And look at all those little lists right there. Controlling information they get, controlling access to the members, helping set agendas, helping write legislation. Staffers are incredibly important, right, to members of Congress because, a member of Congress cannot do all of these things by themselves. They depend heavily upon their staff. All right, now, interest groups. All of that we've seen before, right? An interest group can have an impact on how a member of Congress votes, right? Now, a couple of the new things that we see are this idea of paying for junkets, testifying before committees, providing information. We've seen the other 3 at the beginning. A junket is a vacation. Now, I know there's rules and limits on what interest groups can give to members of Congress, so it's not like they can spend a ton of money just to send them on a great vacation. There's some new rules. But again, that idea of trying to influence them, right, on a vacation. You invite these members of Congress to some resort and you discuss the policy on the golf course. You discuss it over dinner, that kind of thing, right? Now, here's the other thing, though, about interest groups. Information in committees. They testify in front of committees. They give information. Like, I think a lot of times we focus on the money that interest groups give or the campaign activities they give. But interest groups very much will have experts, to come to Congress and help lobby and say, look, this is the information you need about why you should do this certain policy action, right? I mean, if they're writing legislation about, security, if they're writing about tax codes, if they're writing about anything that impacts any kind of business, schools, whatever, you bring experts in to help inform members of Congress so when they make a vote, they're making it with the best amount of information. So interest groups are incredibly important with information, all right? That's huge, all right? All right, now, congressional caucuses. Think about this word caucus. We've seen the word caucus to mean meeting, all right? Awarding delegates in the nomination system, right? We've talked about caucuses in the election primarily, but now we have caucuses in Congress, and a caucus is just simply a group of people meeting. Now in Congress what this means is there's a black caucus, Hispanic caucus, blue collar, women's caucus, right? There are dozens and dozens, and I'll show you in class, right, a list of the caucuses that exist within Congress. And these are simply members of Congress that have similar policy agendas, right? And they're working together to make sure that their policy agenda in the House and in the Senate and various committees is moving forward, right? And so they're simply it's a coalition. It's a group of people that will meet to kind of move forward on certain issues, all right? Okay, now, the presidency. What you're going to see, I think I saw last night that the president's been out campaigning. Like, he'll go off and do speeches on the Affordable Care Act, go out and do speeches on a variety of things, but he's also going to fundraisers. And I think they said he's raised something like $40 million for members of Congress in the next election cycle, right? And the idea is the presidency can punish you, the presidency can reward you. Now again, the president's approval ratings are lower right now. So do you want the president to come campaign for you, or do you not want them? What they're finding though is the president among the Democrats is still highly popular and he's generating a lot of money, right? I think there was a time period when Bill Clinton, the Democrats didn't want him to come try to raise money because he was so unpopular at certain moments, right? And that can go both ways for both parties. But the presidency can really have an impact. And it's informal. This isn't constitutional. This is, the use of the electronic throne, this idea. The president has unique access to the media. When presidents speak, more people listen. Whether it's good or bad about how they're going to comment, they listen. And so they can really have an impact for members of Congress and try to influence them. They can, in the electronic throne, they can say, I really need Congress to do this. They can call people out specifically, which probably won't happen unless it's, the opposing party. All right? Now, campaign contributions. All right? We know that. Members of Congress get campaign contributions from interest groups, from individuals, for a variety of things, and does that influence how they vote? There's arguments that says yes, there's arguments that say no. Again, narrow technical issues, it seems to be pretty impacting, but big, broad public issues that the masses are fired up about, it doesn't seem to have that much of an influence. And again, though, the people that give politicians money lots of times have the same values as those politicians. Conservatives give to conservative politicians, and therefore, can you make the argument that they sway a conservative politician to vote when they're already conservative, or the vice versa, with a Democratic or a liberal politician? All right? Now, the media. The media is huge, right? As a watchdog, everything these guys do is in the media, and therefore they're going to be scrutinized, they're going to be ripped apart, they're going to be praised, they're going to be blamed, and therefore, when they vote, when they take action, they think about the media, all right? Now, here we go again, all right? We're at iron triangles. Now, we've studied interest groups, we're studying Congress, and we still have the bureaucracy to do, right? So, your knowledge of this will be complete after the next unit, all right? But think about the three areas, right? Committees, the federal agency, and the federal agency is just the executive branch that's going to implement it, and then the interest group. Right? Now, the example here in an iron triangle is the Public Works Transportation Committee, right? The Federal Aviation Administration, and the interest groups such as the Air Transport Association, mechanics guilds, unions, pilots unions, etc. Those, remember, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. We're going to read an article in class, right? A really quick one on iron triangles. So remember the relationship, that it's mutually beneficial, and you want to just keep thinking, how do they each benefit each other, right? We've kind of gone over it. All right, look in your textbook. There's another diagram. Look at that diagram just to help yourself, all right? Okay. Now, finally, party. Party influences how Congress votes. And we saw the unity scores. That's the data that shows that party is tremendously important regarding votes. But however, like if you have a Republican voting with the Republicans all the time, how do you know it's not just his own convictions, his constituents' convictions, their staff members, or the lobby, the caucuses or the interest groups? Well, we don't, right? Like the thing about political science is we're trying to explain one moment, one vote from one member of Congress, looking at all of these things kind of simultaneously. All right. But again, the idea is, what influences whether a member of Congress voted, think about it, for the Affordable Care Act or against the Affordable Care Act? Was it their own beliefs? Was it their constituents? Was it their party? Was it another caucus in Congress? Were there interest groups who were giving them money, right? Think about how much pressure the president probably put on members of Congress, the Democrats, to pass the Affordable Care Act because he needed that. But then you saw a Republican, I think we saw in the House, there was 100% party unity scores on that vote, right? So was it party or was it something else? I don't know, right? Okay, so that's it today, right? That's really quick, but just think big picture. It's cross pressure for members of Congress, all right? Cross pressure for members of Congress. Hey, and one more thing about those iron triangles. Notice the synonyms that we have there: subgovernments, issue networks, or policy networks, right? Those terms we want to be familiar with as far as they're just simply defining an iron triangle. It's another word for an iron triangle, all right? All right, have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.